Hello. So, I feel like when you first start watching things or reading things in Spanish, or not even when you first start, but continuing after that, it can be really hard to find things that are to your taste because it's like a whole separate world. So this is the second video in a series recommending things that are natively in Spanish based on things that are either in English or very popular. Some of them more popular than others. So this is kind of a mixed bag. Some of these are shows, some of these are books, some of them are shows based on books, etc. And I can't say that I necessarily recommend all of these because some of them I either have not finished yet or I DNF'd, but they are distinctly reminiscent of something, so they're in here and you can try them out. If you like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, the books or the movies, highly recommend these Swedish movies. You might like the show or book series La Novia Gitana by Carmen Mola. These are very, very similar. I have watched the first season of the show, and I am about to start the second season, which is based on the second book in the series. The series is 4 books, and the first season, which is based on the book called La Novia Gitana, is about 2 sisters who are both killed in the same way by someone. They are Gitana, which is the Romani people in Spain, and so this is kind of about violent crimes against women and or children, and we're following the detective who is part of a team trying to figure out whether this is a serial killer because they thought that they put the killer in prison for the first one. So is it a copycat? What's happening? This kind of initial isolated incident uncovers kind of a darker ring or something like that. And so if you have read or seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, that is very, very similar. I did think I was going to read the books in addition to watching the show, but I started the audiobook and I didn't like the way that the author, which we'll get back to, uses racialized language in the book, and then also there's like drama about this being a 3-author team who are all male authors pretending to be a woman, and so, just kind of with all that going on, I decided not to read the books, but I did see an interview briefly with one of the actors who is Romani, who talked about how well he thought that the show creator handled the Romani community and everything, and how rare that is in shows. So that made me a little bit more comfortable watching the show, but if you are interested in that, it is there, and my opinions will be continuing to unfold in my Spanish media wrap-ups. So next up, if you like the themes in The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata, you might like El Descontento. I forget the author, but it'll be on the screen. I just listened to this book recently, and this one is very thematically related, not stylistically related, but the themes of how, society forces you into a box, how meaningless labor is typically considered more valuable than menial labor that actually generally contributes more to society, that sort of thing. So Convenience Store Woman is translated from Japanese. It is following a young woman who works in a convenience store, obviously, and she loves her job. She does not want anything else out of life other than her simple little life, going to work, going back to her apartment, and that's it. But obviously, Japanese society and most societies want you to fit into a prescribed role, and so her family tries to pressure her into getting married, getting a career, and all those sort of things, and things unfold from there. El Descontento is quite different, but it is following a woman who works at an advertising agency, and she's quite successful at her job, but quite openly, it says in the narration of the book that she did nothing to become successful. She basically just played the game of doing as little work as possible, but making it sound really good. And so both of these are kind of following a not necessarily super likable character. I didn't think that the character in Convenience Store Woman was unlikable. She's just very neutral. El Descontento, the character is a little bit unlikable, especially as the story progresses. Lots of discussion of work and work culture and expectations, and it was very interesting, a little bit absurd. I enjoyed the themes that it presented for sure. If you like the show You, or the series that it's based on by Carolyn Kepnes, something like that, you might like El Túnel by Ernesto Sabato. I really should have written down these author names. So this is, again, thematically extremely similar, structurally extremely similar. El Túnel was written in 1948, I think. I made a meme on Instagram about it, and I don't think that anyone thought it was as funny as I did, but it was basically like El Túnel copying off of You, 60 years later, which obviously it's not the way that it worked, but it just, reading them in that order. Anyway, so both of these, you are in the mind of an obsessive killer of women who fancies himself, or actually is, depending on which character you're talking about, an artist's soul, and just so misunderstood. And it's incredibly disturbing. So in El Túnel, you are following the character after he's in prison for killing his girlfriend, partner, person. He's telling you the story of how that happened, and it's much more straightforward in a way than You, but still, so disturbing. But yeah, fascinating read, and definitely reminiscent of the Netflix show or book series. On a still somewhat depressing but much better note, if you liked Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, I would check out Cantoras by Carolina de Robertes, I think. This book was actually originally written in English, but it's by an author from Uruguay, and she translated her own book into Spanish. So I still consider it a natively Spanish thing because, the same author wrote it both times. I don't know. Technically it's translated, but whatever. So both of these are explorations of being a, sapphic person, being a lesbian or a bisexual woman in a time and environment in which that is forbidden and or dangerous. It's kind of a celebration. They are both kind of a celebration of lesbian spaces, of queer spaces, and a discussion of, queer culture. So this is a YA book, but I highly recommend it for anyone following a young Chinese American woman, a young girl / as she grows up in San Francisco in the 1950s. So not a particularly great time to be queer in the United States or anywhere, and also a complicated time to be a Chinese American. Cantoras is the story of 5 women in Uruguay during the dictatorship. It starts in the 1970s, I believe, and most of the women are in their late teens, early 20s at that point, and it follows them kind of long-term throughout their life, but mostly, in their younger years. Kind of an epic story, even though it's not actually that long. Very, very beautiful writing, but yeah, a strong focus on queer history, on queer spaces in hostile environments, and very, very sad. Lots of content warnings on this one as well, but beautiful, 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 and a really, really important work of literature. So this is definitely my top actual recommendation from this video, but yes. And then lastly, on a silly note, if you liked Pretty Little Liars, then you might like the book El Club de los Lectores Criminales. This is apparently a Netflix movie. I have not watched it yet, but this is a duology, I think. There's 2 books. To be completely honest, I DNF'd the first book. I was not in the mood for it because it is quite silly, and I did not expect it to be this silly, but I was about halfway through it and I was just like, I can't do this right now. But this is extremely Pretty Little Liars-esque, and it's very funny because I thought that myself. Like, I had that thought. I was like, this is reminding me of something. And then I was like, oh my God, Pretty Little Liars. And then someone on Instagram, I think Spanish Lexi, asked me why I DNF'd it because I posted about it. I just vaguely described the plot to her and she was like, oh my God, that sounds like Pretty Little Liars. So it's not just me. This definitely has vibes of it. It's a YA book, although the characters in this one are in university, not in high school like in Pretty Little Liars. But it features murders and mysteries with lots of drama and lots of suspended disbelief required in order to, move on with this. So the premise is that this group of friends, some of which are like dating each other and stuff, are initially going to have a book club reading Stephen King's books. And then they plan a prank on someone who, caused harm to one of them, inspired by a Stephen King plot, and it goes very badly, and then they are kind of haunted by this. Lots of drama, lots of sort of unbelievable plot things, but if you want that kind of like ridiculous teenage drama read, then definitely check this out. I will probably watch the movie just to see. And I'm not saying I would never go back to this if I do get the craving for that kind of book, but it just wasn't the right time. So yeah, definitely strong Pretty Little Liar vibes if you would like that. So that is everything that I have for today, and I will see you in the next video. Hey, hello. So I published a video a couple weeks ago about the app Jive World by the Radio Ambulante podcast network, and they reached out to me on Instagram and said as a thank you, although the video was totally not sponsored, unheard of from them, saying that they wanted to give me a code for 3 months of the app, and so I asked if I could give it to a subscriber instead, and they said sure. So there's only one code. It is for 3 months of access to the premium stuff on the Jive World app. And so I just want you to comment what your favorite thing about learning Spanish is, and just include the word giveaway in your comment, and I will comment on the winning person asking for your Instagram or email address, and then I will message you or email you with the code. All of the rules will be in the description box. This giveaway will be open for 1 week, and I will pin a comment that says it is closed when it is closed. And I will see you in the next video.